What is up, everybody? It's your boy, Juice Drake Rogers, up in the building right now. And to the left of me, I have the beautiful sun-kissed angel. To my left, the man with the tan, Mr. David Wise. Davey, let the people know what we're talking about today.
All right, everybody. Today we are talking some future talk. We're also going to talk the importance of the rest of the schedule. And I will caveat this later, but Dr. Day is going to give you his diagnosis on what's wrong with the Clemson Tigers.
Oh, I can't wait for that diagnosis. And folks, thank you so much for making us your first listen every single day. I thank you. Dave thanks you. Max thanks you. Holly and Stacy, always thanking you. And with that being said, let's get on with today's show.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to another edition of Locked On Seminoles. As we said earlier, it's your boy Drake here, and I am joined by Mr. David Wise. Davey, what's good and good looking?
I'm loving this cold weather, man. It's getting chilly, and I'm all for it.
See, that's the one thing I miss actually about living up in Baltimore, where like I'm back down in South Florida, where I don't get that that nice fall weather,
Yep.
the crisp winds. But I will say it'll be nice when I'm in my pool this weekend when it's freezing everywhere else. But we are not here to give you the weather forecast. That's a different show, a different channel, different brand. We're here to talk about FSU football, and as we said at the top of the show, we're here to discuss the future. The future looks very bright for Florida State Seminoles with for the first time in what, Dave, 2 or 3 years, we got the second stringers to play some snaps?
Yeah, real snaps, too. I think we even got some third string efforts in there.
Yeah, I think we had a bunch of walk-ons play. I think, David Stickle, I think he's a walk-on tight end that converted to center. He took some snaps, and I'm like, "Wow, I have not seen a Florida State team dominate like this since what, 2017?" I think you guys touched about earlier in the
Yeah,
week.
years and years.
Years and years and years. But why don't we talk? I want to take a little bit of a deeper dive into actually the players that we saw take those meaningful snaps. And one of the big names that we do hear on Twitter is kind of your favorite player, probably one of your favorite recruits for the past few years, Mr. Chuba Purdy. Chuba actually did perform really well. He was 5 for 5 with 98 yards. I will caveat it was against UMass, and not only was it against UMass, it was against UMass's reserves due to injury. But Dave, I want you to talk a little more about what you liked. What exactly did you like that you saw from Mr. Purdy on Saturday?
Okay, so taking everybody can say, "Oh, UMass, UMass." He looked different than last year. There were a lot of people who watched him play last year compared to his high school highlights and said to themselves, "That's not the arm I thought we were getting." I don't know I don't know what it was. Probably a lot of injuries, but his arm last year just didn't. It just wasn't there. There was no power to his throws. It felt a lot like an Alex Hornibrook type situation, and that's not what you saw out of him in high school. Fast forward to this UMass game, and that boy was putting some power behind his throws. It wasn't just the fact that it was 5 for 5, it's that he was making good decisions. It's that he was delivering the ball, not just with accuracy, but with a lot more power. And it was exactly what made me hyped about him last year. I thought this arm was the arm we were going to see. And if that's really what it is, paired with some good decision making, I'm really excited to see him play more quarterback.
Yeah, I've actually finally got the chance to watch the game. I didn't watch this past Saturday. I actually was out of town and trying to get away from a little bit of everything. But yeah, I did like what I saw a lot actually with Chubo on my rewatch I did earlier. And one of the differences you see that I will say he struggled a lot last year in those games where whether it be due to injury or just not knowing the playbook, where I give Jordan Travis the same kind of flack going into here, where a lot of
Yeah.
the short stuff he misses on, intermediate stuff he misses on. Also, he has a good deep ball, but he was so much more inconsistent with it last year. But now you see where it looks like it's not only it's all coming together, but also we see the same thing with Jordan Travis. He's a lot more confident with each throw he
Yeah.
makes, with every rep he takes, especially when he steps into it. Where it's I feel a lot more confident with the QB room with both him and Travis in there going into next year.
Yeah, plus Duffy coming in. Can't forget about that. Come
No, we
on,
can't forget
AJ.
about that, but he's not starting. He's not gonna push for a starting job until maybe 2
If he
years.
is if he is good enough to push for a starting job, we have a good problem on our hands.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. But with Purdy, that kind of leads me to beg the next question then where do you I know, like I said before, it was UMass. Do you see him actually making a push for that starting job next year? Because I will say that Travis has taken a much bigger leap with whether it be confidence, whether it be staying healthy, and also with sort of just like how he actually maintains the play and also he avoids contact. Do you actually see him making a push for a starting role next year?
I think it depends. I think one thing we learned about this coaching staff this year is that they're going to put who they feel is the best player on the field, regardless of their situation. Like, there's a lot more freshmen playing now. We're seeing. I know Mackenzie Milton was the older guy, but he was new to the team, and they gave him the start. And I'm confident in this staff that they're going to at least try to put the best player out there, and not just. We know Kenny Dillingham has a man crush on Jordan Travis, and he's said as much. And look, if Jordan Travis and Tubba Purdy improve at the same by the same amount going into next year, I gotta think Jordan Travis remains the starter. But if Chuba takes a big leap and he just clearly commands the offense and his arm continues to improve and he makes good decisions in practice to the point where he's clearly the best quarterback, I got to imagine he's going to get a look at starter.
I agree with that, but I mean, he's not the only freshman, not freshman. He's not the only second stringer that we saw actually have, decent action in the game. We saw DJ Williams finally. Like I heard you guys say that he was a bit of a disappointment. I don't
Whoa,
go
whoa,
that.
I did not say that. That was
Sorry,
Max.
sorry, Max said that, but you were there. You sat there in silence. You co-signed it to an extent. I saw you in the YouTube page. By the way, folks, go over check out Locked On Seminoles YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the little bell. Get notifications whenever we get on. But with DJ Williams, actually, like to me, it's more that he's got Jayshon Corbin, who's destined for the NFL now at this point,
Right.
arguably. You have Trayshawn Ward, who might honestly, like, with another year under his belt, might even get drafted higher than Jayshon Corbin because of his field vision. But with DJ Williams, like in the backfield with that, we saw actually a very talented back there, and that's someone I'm very excited to see actually maybe be RB1 or RB1B going into next year. And then also on the defense side of the ball, we saw Joshua Farmer get snaps. We saw Shaheem Brown get snaps. Demore Tate, who we've been waiting on for what it feels like 3 to 4 years, he's in his second year that he finally got snapped. And there's a lot of players out there that we should be super excited about. Like I said, it was against UMass, but still, we've been waiting for a game to showcase their talent, and they showed out.
Yeah, that's why it's not just important to win games big just because it feels good or just to know you can. It's important to do it because you get the young guys time. Like Farmer and Brown, which is Farmer Brown, that's kind of funny. It's
Uh,
it's important to get them snaps because Jermaine Johnson ain't gonna be here next year. And we gotta know what that unit's gonna look like going into next year. And seeing guys like that get some meaningful playing time. I'm meaningful against UMass, but get some playing time and get some real game situations, that's encouraging. And if we get him another chance to do more this year, that means Florida State's playing pretty good.
you gotta feel better now about that. And one thing that makes me feel immensely better is sweat block, folks. Dave has known me for Dave. How long have you known me?
Quite a while. Quite
Quite
some
a
time.
while, quite a while. And what's one of the big things that I like to enjoy when I'm going out?
Sweating profusely, Drake. You love sweating profusely.
Sweating profusely because I love to embarrass myself and my friends, and also I'm always wearing the lightest colors possible because I'm from South Florida. But now, thanks to Sweatblock, I don't have to go out of my way to buy darker clothes, darker V-necks, because trust me, I'm in the express aisle 24/7, 365. Or now I can go to Bonobos, I can go to Lululemon and get those nice pastel color shirts. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, you see Dave has a nice salmon color on. That's one of my favorite colors to wear out. I haven't been able to do that until Sweatblock. Sweatblock is doctor created, doctor recommended. It will stop excessive sweat for up to 7 days per use. There's a dry shirt guarantee, and you can find them anywhere, whether it be Amazon or CVS, or you can go directly to the source at sweatblock.com by using promo code locked on to get 20% off your order. Once again, that promo code is locked on, LOCKEDON, for 20% off your order at sweatblock.com. And one of the big reasons, I like to sweat out, I like to eat a lot. And one of my favorite restaurants, one of Dave's favorite restaurants, and that's sort of a staple of our boy Max is McDonald's.
Oh
This
yeah.
episode of oh yeah, this episode of Locked On Seminoles is brought to you by McDonald's, proudly serving community since 1965. One of my biggest memories actually with McDonald's is going to a Little League game. Going after the Little League game to go there, grab myself a McDouble, a McChicken, and your boy was crushing him in a McFlurry. Dave, what's your go-to order at McDonald's?
Like you said, it's a McDouble, it's a spicy chicken sandwich,
Ooh.
gotta be a large fry, and a McFlurry, you know, every now and then. But the
Yeah, and
M&M McFlurry is the GOAT.
oh, yeah, and you dump your fries in the McFlurry for a little of that sweets and savory kind of action right there. That might be just me judging by the look on Dave's face right now, but folks, we love McDonald's. Trust us that McDonald's is a great place for affordable, tasty food where family and friends meet up. And as we said earlier, ba-da-ba-ba-ba, we're loving it.
We are.
So now, Dave, let's move on a little bit to our next segment that we have for today. We're going to look ahead to the rest of the schedule because I think that Max and I did it to an extent. I don't think we actually had a chance for you to discuss it too a little more deeper with you. So I kind of want to get your take on where do you see us potentially stealing some wins and actually potentially making a bowl game because we only need 3 more wins. And
Yeah.
this schedule, as we've discussed, is a murderer's row coming into the year. However, it seems that this is a little bit more attainable, especially after this past weekend. So, Dave, let me get your thoughts for we'll discuss the Clemson game in a little bit, but I want you to take you from NC State, which is the week after, and beyond. So, what does Dave see coming up?
I see a lot of vulnerability on the schedule. I see a lot less daunting of a task than it seemed not that long ago. Miami is just collapsed. Oh my God, it's beautiful. They're not a good football team. I genuinely don't think they're better than Florida State. That being a home game, I'm expecting to win that football game. They should have lost last week. I still cannot believe they didn't. Lucky break for them, I guess. They're not good. Boston College is going to be a shootout. I don't think you're going to see much defense out of that team. They're great on offense. I think we could easily beat that team too. I'm not going to sit here and say we should, but we put together a solid offensive performance. I think that's not a difficult game for us to pull out. Uh, Florida, Florida doesn't look very good. You're not hearing a lot about what's going on at Florida right now, but there's something. I don't know if it's that Mullen is halfway out the door. I don't really care. They don't look good. They were playing the wrong guy at quarterback all year. Credit to you. You said AR-15 was the guy
He's
that
so
should have
good.
been
He's so
starting at
good. He's
quarterback
so
all
good.
year. He is good. They were starting the wrong guy. I'm a little scared to see what happens when they actually do start him to see if that kind of fixes things for him. I hope it doesn't. But they're beatable. They're not this daunting top 10 type team that we thought they would be a few weeks ago. Again, I'm not expecting to beat them, but it'd be far from a surprise if we did.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that we saw with the NC State Miami game is that I like Tyler Van Dyke, to his credit, I said a lot of stuff about him on Locked on ACC on Friday that he's not a good quarterback.
Yeah.
He actually performed a lot better than I thought, but NC State, I think, gifted Miami that game with a lot of
Yep.
drop passes. I think someone said it that the wide receiver or the tight end for NC State had a negative 18 EPA at the end of the game, and I think he had like 5 or 6 drop passes, and honestly, that's gonna lose you football games, and some of the play calling, you can definitely see where I said it with Mac Brown, he will never beat Florida State. He's like, what, 0-11 at this point. Dave Doran, I think, is like 0-5 against Miami. So there's some things that just never doesn't happen. And then that Miami game is going to be huge because if they rattle off another win, that might be they're going to have 2, 4-5 maybe teams, 4-4 teams, heading into Doak Campbell, and that's suddenly a game that we all thought was going to be FSU's on the downtrend, and Miami doesn't have Derek King. That's going to be a big game for recruiting as well.
Yeah, it's not a must win because they were expected to beat us going into the year and as recently as a few weeks ago. I'm not going to call it a must win. I don't even think it's the most important game left on our schedule, but winning that game would really put a nail in the coffin of everything going wrong for that team, including their head coach being, 99% out the door, which throws a lot of uncertainty into recruiting, which was already really bad for the University of Miami. Capitalizing on them being down, not even just winning the game. That's one thing, but like the long term implications of putting a nail in Miami's coffin and just beating them when they're down. That is so important.
To me, the game got more important because of how bad Miami got,
Yeah,
especially because we're in on them for similar targets, whether it be Demario Tolan a Wesley Bissaint. I think there's another wide receiver that's escaping the top of my head, but that game to me is extremely important just for recruiting, just for the
Yep.
state of Florida. Because like if we beat Miami, that might make us look to be the most fascinating and enticing option to recruits out of all the big three Florida schools, in my personal opinion.
You
But
know what's bizarre? We'd be the most stable program, I think, in Florida.
explain.
Manny Diaz is clearly going to be out the door. I don't think it matters what they do the rest of the year. It feels an awful lot like Gator Nation has no idea what to expect with Dan Mullen, but that they're not confident he's going to be there. I hope he stays forever because he's an awful recruiter and he blows big situations. But that flux alone, at a minimum, for better or worse, we're stuck with Mike Norvell. Seems right now, the way things have gone the last few weeks, like that's a good thing. But at a minimum, we have stability and consistency among the staff.
Okay, I actually can get behind that. I actually didn't really think of it that way because, like, yeah, because from all accounts, from people that I talked to, Manny's out.
Yep.
And I don't think I think the only thing is when, and if we beat him at Doak, I mean that kind of solidified the end of Tigers' tenure at FSU. It could be the same thing for Manny Diaz because we hate them just as much as they hate us. So that's definitely something they need to look out for. And then for Dan Mullen, I think he missed his window with last year
I
with
do too.
with going to the Jags to coach Trevor Lawrence. That'd be amazing. Or even the year before with Dak Prescott at the Cowboys.
Yep.
And now the Raiders have a head coaching spot available. There's going to be probably a few more firings in the NFL. I think he basically went into the year thinking that I'm going to be done with Kyle Trask, with Kyle Pitts to have his dynamic offense. I'm going to look great and I'm going to dip out. And then he's like, "Oh no, I'm still here." So
Yeah.
that's definitely a good point to bring it with stability. So you did say that you didn't think Miami was the most important game on the remaining schedule. Which one do you think that one is?
Who are we playing this week, Drake?
We are playing. Let me look up my phone real quick just to double. We're playing Clemson, dude. I know.
Yes, we are. That's the most important game on the schedule to me. They've been on top. They're vulnerable. Being a team that's been in every college football playoff, basically, that's a big deal when you're trying to come back from the bottom. I don't care where they are. They've been on top every year for the last 6 years, 5, 6 years.
I can't count.
That's
Dude.
a big deal. That's a big deal.
Yeah, no, I mean, to me, I still don't think it's the most important game on our schedule because if we do beat them, that they are extremely downtrodden. But I do see the point where they have been to the CFP every year except for I think maybe the first year,
Yeah.
so which is going to be a big feather in our cap if we do beat them, and also especially after the whole debacle where last year with Dabo and the entire situation behind the canceling of the game where I just want to beat the crap out of Dabo. That's just more my personal thing. So before we go to the commercial break, I do want to ask you then, what do you see as the 3 games that we can definitely that are the most winnable games so we can actually get back to the bowl game? Because I think going to a bowl game is extremely important for not only recruiting but for the extra practices, and also we might see some coaching staff turnover as well. So I kind of want to ask you, what do you see as the most important? Not the most important, the games that which we can most likely to win heading into the end of the year.
I think NC State is eminently beatable. I don't think Miami's very good, and they managed to take care of business, even if NC State did gift them the game. I think that's a winnable game. I think Boston College, they don't play a whole lot of defense, which kind of bucks the usual trend up in Chestnut Hill. Uh, if we outscore them, which I think is certainly possible, I think our defense is better than theirs, and I could see us winning that game. I think it's probably better than a coin flip for Boston College. For the last one, among the 3 options, Florida, Clemson, Miami, I, I gotta think it's Miami, man. They should be 2-5 right now. They're not good. Without De'Aaron King, like Van Dyke had a performance a little bit of it against NC State, but he's not a good quarterback, and their defense isn't playing that well. They're just not particularly good at anything that puts fear into you.
Yeah, it's not that they're not awful at everything either. They're just not a sound football team. I mean, sorry, the one thing that they actually are really bad at, I think they're bottom 10 in tackling, which is
Yeah.
whether it be too much effort or they're just, trying to get with the shoulder or they just don't want to wrap up. It's just something that you see it where especially in the game against Michigan State where Kenneth Walker is like about to cut up the hole and the linebacker
Yeah.
just turns to his right and instead of hitting the guy in the open space, he literally turns and goes into his own man or he
Nope.
goes straight into the blocker where I'm like, I thought I was watching the Miami-Michigan State game, not FSU from 2 years ago. But I kind of agree with you there. I think the most winnable game at the end of our schedule probably is Miami, followed by Boston College, who I thought was a really good team heading into the year.
I did
I
too.
think losing Phil Jurkovec really hurt them. Their defense has gotten actually better from the beginning of the year, but their offense has regressed dramatically with Dennis Grosel turning into a pumpkin from the Cinderella, carriers that he was. And then I think Florida is actually more beatable than Clemson. So primarily on the sole fact because I don't think Dan Mullen is going to start AR-15. And if he starts Emory Jones, we can stop the run. Emory Jones to me is what Jordan Travis was last year, a dynamic runner who is inaccurate when it counts. If they play AR-15, I will switch that. But for right now, I think it's Miami, Florida. Sorry, it's Miami, Boston College, and then Florida. But before we let you guys get out of here, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about our friends over at rockauto.com. Rockauto.com is a family-run business for the past 30 years. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. My Theo Francisco, shout out Delray Beach, Florida, has had his own mechanic shop since he came from Panama, for the past 25 years. He's been a customer for them for about the past 20. And whether you want a fuel pump, some brake lines, or if you're like me, you spill some coffee in your car, need some new carpets, new lining for your seats, they have it as they give you a better price because if you go to the dealer or if you go straight to a parts store, they'll mark it up by 30%, 50%, even sometimes up to 100%. Folks, head over to rockauto.com and you will get the best price, reliably low for every single customer. And when you head over to rockauto.com, don't forget to write locked on in their how'd you hear about section so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need, rockauto.com. And folks, it's that time again. As you know, when it's just Dave and I on the show, and we got BetOnline.ag ad read coming to you, it's Fade Dave time. Fade Dave is back once again, and I think actually, Dave, you're 1-1 with your Fade Dave pick so far for the year.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
Yeah, you're not particularly good at gambling anymore, man. I'm sorry. Okay, but
Yeah.
I'm going to pick you a game right now.
Okay.
I'll give you a Big Ten game because I know how much you love, sloppy defensive, no offense football. And I'm going to pick you a game where you particularly have a fond feeling for one of the head coaches in this game. So at noon on Saturday, we have the University of Michigan Wolverines going up against Michigan State at East Lansing. Michigan State is a +4 underdog, and the total is under 50.5. What, Dave, is your pick?
Oh, Andres. Jim Fraudbaugh.
Don't call me that. Don't call me that. You know that. Only Camp call me that.
Jim Fraudbaugh. You're about to learn about it if you don't know. Jim Harbaugh is never able to put it all together. Having a great little adorable campaign this year that is just like a ticking time bomb ready to implode or explode. Give me Michigan State. Mark it down. Michigan is losing this football game outright. Michigan State plus whatever points, money line, they're winning this football game.
So, folks, you heard it here first. Dave is taking Michigan State plus the points. So, lock in Michigan -4 as we speak right now to Fade Dave. Full transparency, folks, I took Michigan State at open at +3.5, and I took the money line this morning at +162. But Dave's pick is Michigan State +4. So we're going to try a new segment we like to call Dr. Dave's a Diagnosis, not Triple D. That's actually the basketball-centric pod or segment of a episode that we're going to come back with next week. But this is something we want to try because Dave has an affinity for the advanced metrics or sabermetrics. He's a big FEI guy, S&P Plus, PFF, all those 3-letter acronyms that a bunch of nerds make up on the internet because they didn't play football. But Dave, I want you to give us your diagnosis of what exactly do you think is wrong with the Clemson Tigers?
Okay, so first of all, I am not a medical doctor. I have a doctorate degree, but this is not medical advice, although some would say there's a lot wrong with the health of the Clemson Tigers right now.
Nice.
Oh, Drake. What's the most bizarre thing to me is if you look at like F+, they have Clemson 9th overall in the country. If you look at ESPN FPI, which I don't care much for, they have Clemson as the 10th best team in the country. Drake, I don't need to be a doctor to tell you that I have 2 eyes. I've watched Clemson play football. They're neither the 9th, 10th, or anywhere between 0 and 40th best team. They're not a top 40 football team. They have a very good defense. Maybe even a great defense. I don't think so, but maybe. They have a really bad offense. Um, a lot of it obviously is on their quarterback play. DJ Uyunglele is just off. And, again, for the second time this episode, credit to you. You called it. He is, wow, he's not only just not Trevor Lawrence, he's not a competent ACC quarterback this year. He is missing receivers by a mile. And it's not just like a common miss. It's not just high or low. He's missing high, he's missing low, he's missing left, he's missing right. He's just not on target. If you look at Football Outsiders, they are outside the top 50 in passing down line yards, and they're outside the top 60 in passing down sack rate. So they're not doing him a whole lot of favors. However, with this quarterback situation and their inability to consistently move the football or really generate explosive plays, the receivers haven't been great. Their running back room has been, I know, recently hampered by injury, but clearly they've had a problem replacing Etienne. They're not good on offense. And I think they're averaging 20 points a game. Our defense has improved. I don't see them just suddenly turning it on offense. It leads me to believe that it's the kind of team where if you score 27-ish against them, you got to feel good about your chance to win.
No, I agree with that. And to me, one of the big things that is holding them back is the quarterback play. And it's really weird that DJ coming to the year, to me, I think his ceiling is Taj Boyd. I had it coming to the year, it's not going to be. They don't have the same weapons around him. Like Travis Etienne was a great security blanket for Trevor Lawrence, and also Trevor Lawrence was probably one of the more gifted passers that we've seen in the past 10 years. I mean, he had a slow start with the Jaguars, but if you watch Jaguars games and tape, he's progressed every single he's progressed every single week. Where we saw people were big on Justin Fields train, and he is still struggling actually with the Bears. But that to me is more a product of how bad the Bears' offensive line is and how bad Matt Nagy is as a head coach. But with DJ, who's he going to throw the ball to? Justin Ross isn't the same person. I remember last year he was held out due to a neck and spine injury, and you just double cover him. Joseph Ngata, I think, is hurt. Aju is I think a second year player who is not the same. And their running backs, I think they had 3 of them go out. Will Shipley came back, but that's a true freshman at running back. He's not Travis Etienne. And they had another kid hit the portal. And I'm looking at the list right now of players that I heard from Clemson. There's about 5 of them on this list right now. I'm showing my screen right now. There's about 5 of them that are offensive linemen. And to me, that just shows they've been snake bit by their injury bug. But the problem with that excuse, it's week 9. And with being week 9, everyone's hurt. FSU was hurt throughout the entirety of the beginning of the year, especially on the offensive line. We got healthy and we got back together. But also with Clemson, you're recruiting at a top 5, top 3 clip. And you're not able to replenish. You're not supposed to, rebuild. You're Clemson. You're supposed to reload. And that to me is one of the bigger problems you see. It goes, I think, from coaching with play calling with Dabo and Tony Elliott, even though Dabo has taken over play calling duties primarily. And then with DJ, who, even when he hits his wide receivers out in space, they drop the damn ball.
Yeah.
And it's a mixture of a kid that's lost confidence. It's a mixture of him also trying to do too much because he has nothing else around him either, too. So that offense is just, it's hurt. It's hurting bad, and it's a wounded animal that we need to take advantage of.
That's the strangest thing about DJ is he looks the part. He looks like just a big what is he, like 6'5", 6'6"? He's
6'5", 6'6". I mean, they call him Big Cinco for a reason.
He's heavy. I mean, when he lets a throw go downfield, I mean, the guy could probably throw it 80 yards. He has the raw physical tools in there. He's definitely pressing. I'm certain he's trying to make up for the issues around him, and it's just not coming together. It just looks like everything goes wrong every play, and matriculating the ball down the field just feels extremely difficult for them, which is funny because every other year we played Clemson, it's always felt like, why does the field feel so small when we're on offense, but so big when they are? And that is the exact opposite of how it's looked for them this year.
So then before we head out here, let's talk about the defense then for Clemson real quick. I think it's a very good defense. That's team, though, even though it could have been elite, but they did lose Brian Brzee. Max, who actually did a good job Monday and Tuesday pronouncing his name. So kudos to both of you guys. Y'all did good on that, actually. And they did get Tyler Booth back, but they lost some linebackers. They did lose some kids to the portal. I want to ask you, what should fans' expectations be for our offense against their defense hanging on Saturday? Because I don't think we should light them up. A lot of people think that we should be rung all over them, passing all over them. That to me is just not the case. So what do you think that should be our expectations for the offense on Saturday? What do you think we should do to capitalize actually on a potentially tired Clemson defense because their offense might not be able to move the ball?
Yeah, so it's I have the opposite thought of what I did for UNC, where I said I think we're going to need to go out there and just really try some things and you know, make some strange special plays. I don't think that's the case here. I don't think we need to change anything. Jordan Travis is going to need to be special. He's going to need to be able to break when plays break down to just not get caught. You've seen a few instances this year where we question ourselves, has he lost a step? I think those questions in my mind are gone. But I don't know that we're going to beat them trying to air the ball out, which is how I thought we would beat UNC. This running game is the strength of this entire team. If we're going to win this game, it's going to be because Jordan Travis is running the ball in a way that sets up the running game, like running to play action, the actual run. It's going to have to rely on the run game. We're going to have some big play action plays probably off of the run game once it's been established. But I don't expect us to score 4 touchdowns. I think if we score 27 in this game, which is a realistic target, I think we probably win.
Yeah, since Dave keeps referring to that, it's basically because I think we talked about the other day where Clemson has not scored more than 21 points against an FBS opponent all year. Clemson also hasn't covered in any single game heading into this year. I think this is the most vulnerable I think we've seen Clemson come. I think probably since 2010, maybe 2011. Like it's a team that definitely it gives me shades of the FSU team from 2017 and Jimbo's last year, where a prominent coaching spot opens up. The team isn't performing very, very well. Cracks are showing with recruiting. Cracks are showing with QB selection and personnel decisions. Where it to me, I'm not saying Dow's going to leave for LSU. I think he's going to still be there, but it's very eerily similar to how we were downtrodden, and especially because we got blown up by Oregon in 2014. They got blown up by Ohio State, and that by a similar quarterback.
Yep.
So I'm a little more optimistic on this game, but before we head out of here, Dave, I want you to give your prediction since it's you and I. Come on, let's what do you pick for the final score of this game?
I'm prepared to do it, Drake. I'm prepared to get hurt again. I am expecting to win this football game. That is a bad Clemson football team. We are going to win. I'm going to say 27 again. 27-20. We're not only going to cover that 10-point spread. I almost wish you could do one of those pleasers where you give them points, because I don't expect to lose this game. Momentum's real.
Oh, the pleasers talk. You're speaking my love language right now, man, about pleasers. But this is really hard for me to make my choice on this one. I'm not gonna lie to you. There's just something deep down in my gut that has me a little worried about this game. But you know what, Dave? We are gonna win this game, folks.
Yeah, we are.
I said it about UNC. I said it going to Notre Dame, which we should have won if it wasn't for coaching decisions. But for UNC, I am writing in there. I will with you, Dave. But we're gonna win 28-27. We're gonna score, and it's gonna be a closer game than we expect. It's gonna be at Death Valley, which is as packed as it's gonna be. I got a friend of mine there who's gonna be in the Raptors, actually the upper level, where he told me he's gonna try to catch one of those overthrows by DJ up there, so he might be able to get some gear for the show. But
Nice.
I think 28-27 to be a closer game. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down to where Clemson's driving and they miss a field goal. You know how much Dabo hates his kicker. Or if we win the game again by, Fitzmagic back there. But folks, that is it for today's episode. Thank you all so much for love and support. Please, if you can, don't forget to rate, review, like, share, or subscribe either on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcast from. And also, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and ring that little bell so you get a notification whenever new content drops down. And also, we have a Discord now too as well. DM either myself at Tally__Drake or David Wise FSU Noles 5. Sorry, Nole 5. He's a little newer to the internet. He's a kind of a boomer when it comes to technology, but we love him for it anyways. For myself, Drake, that was David, and we'll see you next time on Locked On Seminoles, baby.
Bye, Dabo.